We are now talking to the leader, news editor, writer for the Pack to the Future and Packers Talk. Yes, Ralph Mancini. Ralph, what's going on, bud?
Hey, man. It's that time of year again. A lot of intrigue there with the Packers, salary cap issues. On pins and needles with Aaron Rodgers. A lot of drama going on.
Yeah, there is a lot of drama. And before we get into the drama with the Packers, how are you doing? I mean, the last time you were on the show, bud, me and you went back and forth on Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. I mean, you've been so adamant about Aaron Rodgers that he's the greatest quarterback to come out of the Packer land. And I was back and forth with Brett Favre. At that time, I still thought that Brett Favre was the better of the quarterbacks. I will actually take back on some of the things that I said because Aaron Rodgers has really changed my mind in the last couple of years. So how have you been doing since the last time we had you on the show?
I'm doing great. I am such a big Packers fan that I actually moved from New York City out to North Dakota. So I'm actually a little closer now to Wisconsin. I'm here for work purposes. I'm a newspaper editor. I try to write about the Packers, whenever I can, but I'm still following every day and still rooting as hard as I can.
All right, so why don't we get into the Packers, bud? And as everybody knows, we are talking to the leader and news editor, writer of the Pack to the Future and Packers Talk, Ralph Mancini. So this whole Aaron Rodgers thing, obviously the playoffs, getting eliminated by San Francisco, it's snowing, below zero weather, it started snowing heavy in the second half. Everybody wanted to throw Aaron Rodgers under the bus, saying that Aaron Rodgers was horrible in the game, but what really showed in that game was the special teams was absolutely atrocious. They couldn't kick the ball. Crosby missed a point, 3-point field goal, and then the punt return that actually gave the San Francisco 49ers the lead. Aaron Rodgers now, he spoke at the winning his MVP. He was thanking everybody, thanking the Packers fans because I believe he was saying farewell to the Packer fans. What are your thoughts to what Aaron Rodgers said at the MVP when he won the MVP at the award show? And do you think that everything that you've been hearing the last couple of weeks that Aaron Rodgers could be on his way out?
As far as what Aaron Rodgers says, I take a lot of that with a grain of salt. Just a few days ago, he put up these pictures on Instagram where, there were pictures of his teammates. He was saying goodbye to everybody. And then there was one picture where, they were showing the guy standing for the national anthem and he was missing from his usual spot. So, fans can, try to read into this what they will. But I look at it this way. As far as Aaron Rodgers goes, I think that he's got two options. Either he retires or he plays for the Packers because he's still under contract with Green Bay. So everybody wants to speculate. Will it be the Denver Broncos that trades for him? Will it be another team? But the Packers organization has to be willing to trade him, and he's still under contract. So, and as far as I know, and Brian Gutekunst said this just the other day, it's like, I never promised to trade Aaron Rodgers. That's not part of his plan. Throughout the whole offseason, whether it was the coach LaFleur, whether it was Gutekunst, they said that, our intention is to hold on to Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be our starting quarterback moving forward. And they stuck to that. I don't think they're saying that because they're trying to posture. I don't think they're trying to say that so they can get a few more draft picks from some team that might be interested. So I really think that, the Packers front office holds the cards here.
So a lot of rumors are being made of Aaron Rodgers is waiting on Davante Adams, where he's going to end up going in free agency. Davante Adams demanding the highest paid, being paid the highest paid receiver in the league, which I think he's the best receiver in football right now. He deserves it, but a lot of his asking prices have been too rich for some teams. Do you think that is the case? And will Aaron Rodgers demand a trade over there, or do you don't think it's correlated at all? Davante Adams has his own path.
Well, I think that what happens to Davante is going to have an impact on what Aaron does, and I mean the Packers are going to have to move soon. So if their intention is to give or make Davante their franchise player, they have until March 8th to do that. But quite frankly, from a financial standpoint, I don't think that would be the smartest thing to do because as they stand right now, I believe that they're about a little bit over 30 million over the cap still, even with all the moves that they made recently this past week. You want to throw like another 22 million on top of that with the franchise tag? I don't think that makes a lot of sense. I think their only way out here is if they can agree to a long-term deal with Davante Adams in a way where, it doesn't hurt them a whole lot in the upcoming season. So I hope that, as a Packer fan, I hope that happens relatively soon before Rodgers makes his announcement. But if they do come to an agreement with Davante, I'm thinking it's a done deal. I think Aaron comes back, so.
As everybody knows, we are talking to the leader of news editor and writer for Pack to the Future and Packers Talk, Ralph Mancini. Ralph, we obviously you're a Packers guy, and going into the offseason, everybody keeps talking about Aaron Rodgers. And this is the same team that had the best record in football throughout the season. They fell apart in the playoffs against San Francisco, where a game that I think that if it didn't snow and it wasn't as cold as it was, I think they beat San Francisco. I think they go all the way to the Super Bowl. I still believe they were the better team. Going into this offseason, I still think there's a lot of questions about this team, especially in the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line, they're getting older. Okay, this is an old offensive line. You look at their running back play. Now, I know they paid Jones in the offseason last year. They paid him a lot of money. To me, throughout the season, he's a good running back. Going into the playoffs, he's not as good. He's not as durable in the playoffs. This year, it didn't really matter because they only played one game, so you don't know what he had. And they lost Dillon early in that game, so nobody knows what that game would have been if Dillon actually stayed in the game. No. What does the Packers do if they bring back Aaron Rodgers? If somehow they bring back Davante Adams, that's not enough. Do you see them making a move? Do they replenishing it in the draft to try and fix this offensive line that I think is getting old, which didn't look as good as it did in the second half of the season? What do they do? What do you think they need to do to make this team, if they make this team as good as it was last year with Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams?
Well, don't forget, a big reason why their offensive line wasn't as strong as as it was in the past is because of a couple of big injuries, namely Bakhtiari didn't play basically all year, and then they had a catastrophic injury to Elton Jenkins, who's just that versatile guy who could play at any position along the offensive line. Now, what do they do? I really think that what they need to do is even if they sign Davante Adams, I think they need to replenish at the wide receiver position. That's one of the things that you saw with this team in that game versus San Francisco, where, everybody's talking about, well, why is Aaron throwing the ball to Davante all the time? Well, that's because 90% of the time he's the only one who's open. Don't get me wrong. Alan Lazard is a good role player, but he's not a number 2 and he's not even a number 3 receiver. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is a guy who's very fast, but he can't catch the ball. Randall Cobb is way past his prime. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so who do they have outside of Davante Adams? So I think that particularly in the draft, they're going to have to focus on that position.
Which is a very weak draft when it comes to wide receivers. It really is.
Yeah, they might have to take one in the first round.
Yeah, that's what they're going to have to do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, if you want to talk about where they need to replenish, and then you're looking at tight end. Robert Tonyan not being there in that game versus San Francisco also hurt the Green Bay Packers. It gave Rodgers one fewer target to look for. And so he's coming off an ACL injury. So they might have to bring in another tight end. Mercedes Lewis is about 40 years old. So we're close to it. So, that's another position they're going to have to look at. So you're right. This offense is not perfect. It has a lot of holes. But as far as that 49ers game goes, you said it. When Dillon went down, I think that really, really hurt the offense because of those conditions, because it was windy and it was cold and it was snowy. I think, Dillon should have been the centerpiece of that game plan. Unfortunately, he went out with a broken rib. And so, that really hurt the team overall.
So the Packers have always been known as one of the organizations that loves to home grow their players, hang on to their players for a while, and not big investments into free agency. Now they've done it a little more recently with two Smith pass rushers. They tried it with Muhammad Wilkerson. It didn't work. They had a couple of them, but again, they're mostly based on homegrown. Now we saw the Rams win the Super Bowl with kind of the other extreme. They trade all their draft picks. They get Odell on a small contract, and they swing for the fences on these other outside signings. Do you think the Packers kind of have to adapt to that kind of trend to be good in today's NFL, where you see this kind of player movement?
Well, I think that this is a different Packers organization than the one that we saw 10 years ago under Ted Thompson. Under Ted Thompson, yes, traditionally they were that team that built through the draft. They were very conservative. Whatever money they spent on their own guys. But now they do actually go after free agents. Maybe not as much as other teams, but now they find themselves in a situation where they have to create cap space and they have to kick the can down the road. And that's exactly what teams like the Rams do. And and nowadays, I used to be a big proponent of building through the draft, but the Rams just proved to you that they could trade away all their first round draft picks and they could kick the can down the road all they want, and they were successful. So so if kicking the can down the road is what you have to do to hold on to your two best players, and Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, then so be it. I'm all for it. I didn't think that way before, but I want a Super Bowl. And if they start rebuilding, it could be like another 12, 15 years before they even sniff a Super Bowl.
You speak about Aaron Rodgers. So let's say Aaron Rodgers wants to be traded. They agree to move him, okay? Now, there are quite a few teams that are available to make a move. We've been hearing Tennessee is one of those teams. Obviously, he bought a home in Tennessee. Maybe that has something to do with the Vegas Raiders. You're hearing Derek Carr could be on his way out to Pittsburgh. Maybe they're trying to make room for Aaron Rodgers. We've heard the Washington. What do they call themselves now?
The Commanders.
The Commanders. They've already made a bid. They've offered a certain amount of draft picks to land Aaron Rodgers. Is there a particular team, if it isn't Green Bay, that you think it fits the best and where Aaron Rodgers more than likely will go if it isn't the Packers?
I think I would have to say that team is the Denver Broncos, just because they hired the head coach of Nathaniel Hackett, who was the offensive coordinator for Green Bay up until this past season. They hired him to be their head coach, and Hackett and Rodgers have a great relationship. So I can really see the Broncos being that team, and also because. What are their options? If they don't trade for Rodgers, where do they go? Do they trade for Jimmy Garoppolo? Does that get you excited if you're a Broncos fan?
Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson.
Kyler Murray.
But he's got to get through his legal issues.
Kyler Murray. Derek Carr.
Kyler Murray. You think Kyler Murray is going to be available?
I do. I do.
Really?
Everything. Yeah, I really do. I think there's a lot of stuff going on right now in Arizona, and there's different people that we've had on the show, and even some of the things that I have listened or watched or read their stories and stuff like that. He is not happy there right now. Ever since they got eliminated in the first round against having home field advantage, got knocked off by the Rams, and the Rams obviously win the Super Bowl. He's been getting attacked not only by the fans, death threats, and now the team. He's taken every one of the players that followed him on Arizona on Twitter off his friends list. So there has to be some kind of truth to what's going on right now in Arizona. And Kingsbury is definitely on the hot seat. And Kingsbury had 2 years with two really good teams. Last year, they were one of the best teams throughout the season, and it fell off in the second half of the season, maybe because of Kyler Murray's injuries. They're not protecting him. Kyler Murray could be on his way out, too. There's a lot of – how about Kirk Cousins? He could be on his way out from Minnesota as well. There's a lot of good quarterbacks this year more than any offseason where I could see quarterbacks moving in so many different ways.